ahead and get started. But first of all, thank you all for coming. I know that these are really interesting times, and so it's nice to see so many people thinking about the long term when I know that the short term is pretty strenuous. Uh, I've generally done this workshop with a handout in relatively informal form, but we're going to use a PowerPoint today. This is available in the Canvas site if you're in the recently tenured working group, and we're happy to share it as well for those of you who'd like a copy later on. So what we're going to talk about today is understanding criteria and policies for promotion to full. For some of you, this might be the foundation of some long-term planning, and for others, it might be how to frame the work that you've already done as you think about presenting yourself for promotion. So I will try to speak to as broad an audience as I can. One thing I'd like for you to keep in mind is that the criteria is there to help you make sure that everyone gets a fair and equal reading, and it also takes care of some of the policy questions. So for example, the question of whether or not you should be promoted is related to whether or not you've met the criteria. So I'll say at the outset, and I imagine there'll be some questions, it doesn't matter how long you're in rank. Associate professor is a rank where you can stay as long as you need to until you've met that next benchmark. So my goal is to help you identify those benchmarks and assess your progress, and then make a plan to move toward it if you haven't done so already. One of the things that I'd like to do, and I'll start by saying, if you ever have a question, you're welcome to contact our office, and our email is simple, and it's the same as our website. It's vpfaa, and it's at indiana.edu if you're sending an email. And you are welcome to send us an email. We will make sure you get an answer to your question, and we're happy to do that as often as needed. So one thing that I like to start with is talking about the promotion process and its multi-level review. What that means in practice is that your dossier gets a fresh look at several different levels along the way. And that's important because when you build your dossier, the further you get away from your local unit, that may be all that people know of you. So if you think about the dossier as a way to showcase what you've accomplished, and also the need to explain those accomplishments to a less and less specialized audience, that may help you as you think about how to showcase your accomplishments and how to document that in the dossier. For many of you, you will start with a unit level review. There are schools that don't have departments, and so this is why that one often has an asterisk or says as appropriate. And then your case will be voted on by the eligible faculty, which should be full professors in your unit. For those of you in a unit without a large number of full professors, we often work to put together a committee that could include outside members. If you're in a unit where there are only 1 or 2 full professors, I will work with you and with your chair, or our office will, to make sure that you have a subcommittee report that has at least 3 people, and that we follow all of the policies and guidelines specific to your unit, and still make sure that you have several people weighing in on the case. From there, your dossier goes to the school committee, and there'll be a second vote and a report, and then to the dean. And then there's a campus level committee. And then from there, it enters what's called the executive level. It goes to the vice provost, the provost, the president, and then the trustees. And one thing that you should know about promotion, although we don't recommend that you go up regularly, you're allowed to go up as many times as you wish, and you can withdraw your dossier before it reaches the executive level without any penalty and without any decision being officially rendered. Moving then to the dossier itself, the dossier is a way to showcase your accomplishments, and the best dossiers connect those accomplishments to the promotion criteria. In general, what you're looking to do is demonstrate your impact on your field, both your unit, your campus, and beyond. And depending on the type of case you choose, and we'll talk more specifically about that in just a moment, you may be demonstrating impact beyond your unit in several areas, in teaching and in service, and also in research. The dossier allows you to tell the story of your trajectory since tenure. It's important to start with naming your accomplishments that allowed you to earn tenure, and then showing how you've moved beyond. For some people, this is represented by further depth. In others, it's more breadth. And for still others, you may have gotten tenure and thought, you know, this isn't where my heart is anymore, and retooled completely, started a new line of research. And all of those are perfectly valid ways to reach the next benchmark. But it's important to take the same starting point and then talk about what work you've done and how it's meaningful beyond that point. The quote at the bottom of this slide: an effective dossier will provide multiple independent measures collectively indicating sustained contributions, demonstrating the impact of appropriate depth and breadth. That's taken directly from the policy language, describing how you should document your accomplishments in all three areas. And I want to point out the words that are most important in this sentence to me, which is multiple independent measures. So there is no single metric, there's no single way to measure your accomplishments, and it's up to you to provide lots of different kinds of evidence that are both relevant to the work you do and also that presents you in the best light. And that's something that we're also happy to help you do. So at IU, we're fortunate to have several different avenues of promotion. Specifically, there are 4 different avenues. You might choose to demonstrate excellence in one area and at least effective accomplishments in the other 2, and any of those combinations is possible. So you can present excellence in research and then at least effective in teaching and satisfactory in service. You could present excellence in teaching and be at least satisfactory in the other 2 areas, or excellence in service and be satisfactory in research and effective in teaching. Additionally, we have a 4th option called the balanced case. And in order to present a balanced case, the argument is that your accomplishments are of equal benefit to the institution, even though they're spread across 3 areas. And you have to demonstrate that you've met the benchmark for very good in all 3 areas. And we'll talk a little bit more about what those ratings mean in just a moment. Within these 4 paths, some of you may find yourselves wondering what the best option is. I will say that the balanced case, when it's appropriate, works very well. There's no indication that there's less success or more success with any particular avenue. What the balanced case is not is a safety net if your research isn't quite there, because the bar for very good is really quite high in teaching and service. And we can talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. But for those of you who feel that your research and your teaching and your service are really quite integrated, it might be the very best option. And again, we're happy to talk about this with you. I should say our office is set up to allow what we call a firewall, but what we really mean is that you can have a confidential conversation about your case and be certain that no one involved in that conversation will have any decision-making power down the road. So at present, I sit on the as the liaison for the tenure advisory committee, and I advise on promotion cases. And what that allows me to do is to be as helpful as possible. My only goal is to provide good information and let your case be as successful as possible. And then down the road, when it's being evaluated at the campus level, I won't be in the room and I won't have any say on that. The same is true for tenure cases. We would connect you at present with my colleague Beth Gaisley, and the same confidential conversation is available. We've worked really hard in the past few years, and this is the first time I've gotten to do this workshop, saying we've done some really good work here, and I have good news. The Bloomington Faculty Council worked with our office and several others to revise the language describing the benchmarks for promotion and tenure as well. What was missing before was some clarity about the 4 paths, and that the balanced case required very good in all 3 areas and was equally viable. So what you have here is some summaries of those changes in the language. And I've bolded the part that matches what I'm saying, but in general, these are found on our website. I'll show you in just a minute how to get there. But this is straight from the policy language. So if someone in your unit says, oh, we don't allow a balanced case, well, actually the campus policy says that you do. and we can help you work through those conversations and decide whether it's the right avenue for you. It also is very clear what it means to be satisfactory in service and in teaching. So we'll talk at one of our workshops in the spring about documenting service accomplishments. One of the upshots of that conversation is how much is too much. And people are often looking both to document what they've done, but also to find the limits of what's expected. So these criteria help in that way too. They tell you what's expected, what the bar is, and then you can navigate the demands on your time accordingly. I think, yes, okay, good. Here's the slide that shows you, if you go to our website, and you can see it's vpfaa.indiana.edu, and if you forget, you can just search VPFAA IUB and it'll pop up. You'll see these 4 buttons. The language that I'm quoting is from the Principles and Policies on Tenure and Promotion, but you'll also find some other useful information here that I'll talk about in just a second, including links to school and department policies, as well as some information on eDossier. In several different documents, you'll find a list of folders that used to be, when we were using paper dossiers, there was a checklist. That became the list of the folders that you're able to fill with documents to show your accomplishments. And so that link will take you both to the list, and I believe there's now a quick video of me giving you a tour of eDossier as well. Let's see, there we go. Okay, so the other question that we get quite a lot is, now that you have an understanding of the importance of the criteria, the question becomes personal, right? When do I know it's time for me to go up? So we've broken this up into 3 different steps. The first step is that you should locate your own criteria and understand it clearly. What you'll find, and I've just given you an overview of the campus level policies, is that each level gets slightly more specific. They should go together, but it may require some conversations. When you read the language about establishing a national reputation or an international reputation, it may take contextualizing that within your own unit and working from there to make sure that you are clear. What I want to do with this slide is give you the tools you need to find those criteria. So if you go to our webpage and you push the button I showed you on the previous slide, you'll find the campus level information. There was also a button there for school and unit criteria. This takes you to the school criteria for everything except for the College of Arts and Sciences. And then for the College of Arts and Sciences, it actually takes you directly to the unit level criteria. Each department criteria is there. You should double check, because those are being updated with the change in the campus level criteria. Some of the units responded and improved their own. So it's worth asking if there's something new that just hasn't been updated on that website. So for the College of Arts and Sciences, it's a little tricky to find the promotion criteria, the tenure criteria as well, for the college itself. What you need to do is log into the faculty and staff intranet, and then you can search it and you'll find it right away. So I've written all of this on this slide because it took a little digging for me to be able to find it the first few times I was looking. Step 2 is to decide whether or not you've met those standards. So first you locate them and you read them and understand them, and then have some conversations to make sure that language is clear. And then you have to assess, well, what have I done? Or if you're in a planning stage, how will I meet those criteria in each of these 3 areas? So what you'll find is that they don't contradict, but they might get increasingly specific. And I've taken an example from art history, in part because I think they have nice detail and it illustrates this point very well. But you'll find this for your unit as well. Or some people say it doesn't say anything different. That's also fine. That means you work with the umbrella language and interpret how that applies to your own field. But what you'll see is that the college echoes the campus level criteria, saying you need a national or international leadership position in a substantial field. And when you get to the art history, you'll see that they actually list exactly what they'd like for you to have. Work equivalent to a peer-reviewed book-length study. So that's quite specific. And they even talk about what kinds of work they value. This is really important information. And for 2 reasons. One, if you're in planning mode, it's nice to know this ahead of time. You can make sure that you check those boxes. But also, if you're at the very moment where you're presenting your case, and you have these things, but you fail to mention them or you fail to highlight them, you've missed an opportunity to show that you're ready to go up for tenure. So this can help you couch the way you present your own case. Step 3 then, and this is where another conversation comes into play. Within your unit, you're likely to have individualized timelines, and you'll need to know what the procedures are and how to plan ahead for each of these. So what you'll find, for example, is that many units have a pre-promotion review. This might be your annual review. It might be a special review where you say, I'm thinking of going up. Will you give me an enhanced review? So you'll need to understand exactly what your unit does. In many units, the materials that are required for this are identical to the salary materials. In others, they let you add a statement, and in still others, there's quite a lot more documentation involved. So that's another question that you should ask. You'll also want to know when that review takes place and whether or not you need to notify your chair in order for that review to happen. I know in some departments, it's a regular occurrence for the full professors to meet and look at everyone's CV post-salary season and decide who's ready to go up. In other units, you'll need to say, hey, would you take a look and let me know what you think? And then you'll also want to know when is it that your unit or school expects for you to have your materials ready to go out to external readers. The fixed deadline, really the only fixed deadline that sets all of this in motion, is that the dossiers are due to the campus by December 1st. So the schools know this, and they plan their time so that they have enough time for their committee to meet and review and get the dossiers to campus by that December 1st date. The bigger the school, likely the earlier the deadline. From there, the departments will need to have enough time to get their materials into the school if you're in a school where there is department level review. And then from there, the deadline for the external reviewers is set, which will then affect when that material needs to go out and be finalized in the spring prior. And if in order for those requests to be sent, you need to go through some other kind of review, that's likely to happen late fall or during the spring semester of the year prior. So we're talking about a good 12-month timeline. And it's a great idea to know how things work long before you need to be a part of that process. So I will go ahead and